My boyfriend is perfect when he's awake, but at night, he turns cold and mean, so I left.
My boyfriend is great when he's awake, which is why this has messed with my head so much.
In the daytime, he's sweet and steady. He brings me coffee, remembers the small things I like and hate, and makes me feel cared for. We laugh a lot, and most days feel easy with him. But at night, after he falls asleep, he turns into someone else, and I'm the only one who hears it. He works the night shift at a warehouse and gets home around 2 a.m., wiped out and smelling like sweat and cleaner. He showers, has 2 beers on the couch, and then we get into bed. He puts a podcast on low. I rub his back, and he's out in about 20 minutes. I've had insomnia since I was a teen, so I'm usually still awake at 3 or 4 a.m., staring into the dark while he snores. The first weird comment happened about 3 months into dating. I shifted to get comfy, and without opening his eyes, he muttered, "Stop moving, you're so annoying." It was flat and mean, like I was a problem. I froze and stayed still, telling myself sleep talk is random and doesn't count, but it kept happening. If I adjusted a pillow, he'd grumble, "Can you stop?" If I pulled the blanket up, he'd sigh, "Just be still." Always that same irritated tone, never the warm voice he uses when he's awake. After a while, I started moving like I was sneaking around my own bed, trying not to trigger him. Then a few months ago, something hit harder. It was around 3 a.m. and I hadn't moved at all. He rolled over on his own and said clearly, "I could do so much better than this." Then he went right back to snoring. My stomach dropped. It didn't sound like nonsense. It sounded like a real thought that slipped out. I lay there, replaying it, wondering if he meant better than me, better than us, or better without me there. I didn't bring it up because the one time I mentioned a sleep comment before, he got so guilty and upset that I ended up comforting him, and somehow I was the one saying sorry. So I stopped talking about it and started dreading bedtime. I switched to my own blanket because he kept stealing mine, hoping it would stop the tugging. Then, last Tuesday, I woke up freezing. My blanket was gone. He had it pulled under him, tangled with his own, like he'd wrapped himself in both. I reached over and tugged my corner gently, slow and careful. His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, not soft, not gentle. He squeezed and shoved my hand away hard enough that I had to catch myself on the mattress. My heart started hammering. I whispered his name and said I was cold and needed my blanket. He didn't answer, just made this annoyed grunt and held tighter. I tried again, quieter, then a little louder, and he still wouldn't let go. After a few minutes, I said it sharper than I meant to. "Please, give it back." He jerked upright, like an alarm went off, and snapped, "What do you want?" His eyes were barely open, but his voice was sharp. Then he said, "You are so annoying," like it was a fact, and he yanked the blanket free and flung it at me. It hit my face and slid into my lap. He dropped back down and was snoring again in seconds. I sat there holding the blanket, shaking, trying to understand how fast it happened. The grabbing, the shove, the way he sounded like he hated me for needing warmth. I didn't sleep after that. I just stared at the ceiling until morning, with my heart racing, lining up every comment in the dark that I'd forced myself to ignore. When he woke up around 7, he stretched, smiled at me, and said, "Morning, beautiful," like nothing had happened. I didn't smile back. I told him we needed to talk right now, and I said I couldn't keep pretending this was nothing. I told him what he'd been saying in his sleep, including the line about doing better, and I held up my wrist and asked how that part was supposed to be just sleep. He blinked and said he didn't remember any of it. I said maybe he didn't, but I did, and I was the one awake and scared in our bed. He started to say he'd never hurt me on purpose, and that he was just tired. I cut him off and said intent didn't change how it felt. I told him to get help, a doctor or sleep clinic, because I wasn't sleeping next to him again until this stopped. He got defensive and said I was acting like he was some monster. I said I was acting like someone who got grabbed in the dark and told she was annoying for being cold. Then I grabbed my keys and an overnight bag, and I walked out before I could talk myself into staying.